Ads ruined the internet, but there's something you can do about it. Actually, there are a couple of things that you can do. Yeah, let's take a look at those. Okay, this is not really a video tutorial. I mean, it's supposed to be a tutorial on how to regain a little bit of sanity on the internet, how to get rid of most of the ads, if definitely not all the ads, it's kind of impossible, but just having a more pleasurable internet experience. But before that, before showing you all the little tricks that you can apply, I want to rant about it a little bit. I want to talk about why we're here, why ads are technically not a bad thing, but they have been abused and used too much, and now the internet kind of sucks. If you're not interested about hearing any of that, that you're saturated and you just want a solution and you want to see how to improve your browsing experience, just use the chapters below to navigate through the timeline of these videos. You can jump to the section where I talk about the browser that you should use or the actual tools that I use to try to block the ads from a router point of view. Spoiler alert, you should use Firefox with a blocker, with an ad blocker. That's a no-brainer. If you use anything other than Firefox, what kind of internet do you want in your life? I don't know, but we'll talk about that. And the other solution is this little thing. This is a Raspberry Pi with Pi-hole installed that you can attach to your router and redirect through DNS that block most of the ads. But before that is complaining time. So ads, advertisement per se, like the origin of advertisement, is not a bad thing, especially on the internet. This might be controversial, but the internet, it's amazing because by its own nature is open, decentralized, and free, which means that you don't need to pay to have access to the information that some people put on the internet for free, other than paying for connections or other things. But there are free internet connections available. But there's the very own nature how internet started was a free access to knowledge, a free shareable knowledge base for everybody. And that's absolutely fantastic. Advertisement inside the internet for websites is at its core a good, sustainable thing. Think about it. If I have a website that I put information on it and I share them for free for everybody, I still have to pay for the cost of the server, for the cost of the infrastructure that I put in my website, and also because I invest time and energy into doing something, having something back, like in terms of money, just gaining a little bit of value from that, it's fantastic because it motivates me to do more and to put more things out there. So you as an end user, you can access my website, see a couple of ads there that hopefully don't bother you, and then the website is still free there. All the knowledge that I put down, it's completely for free. It's not behind a paywall. That democratizes a little bit the access to information, but still allows me to pay the bill of whatever cost I have for those websites. So at its core, it's a good method, it's a good approach. The problem is, of course, capitalism and greed is when it's never enough to do one thing that supports and sustains the majority of the people. So now we are in the situation where the majority of the websites or news publications or, I don't know, like 50% of the web page that you visit is just ads. And you could say that, well, that's how the developers, or it's how the owners of that knowledge supports themselves through ads. Unfortunately, that's not true anymore. There's been multiple research and multiple stats that advertisement, or just doing pure advertisement on the internet, doesn't have a return of investment as it used to before. The space is cluttered. There are monopolies. Google is one of the classic examples. If you want to advertise anything through AdSense, you need to pass through their platform. They can conflate prices independently, and you don't really have a guarantee of a return of investment and all the things. So it's kind of a generic shit show. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to stick with the consumer or the user, the end user, the experience that you as a user have on the internet. Because yes, ads support your creators, but we're talking about your internet. You're talking about you spending money to browse the internet, and half of your bandwidth cost goes into ads. Whenever you watch a YouTube videos, if it's a 10 minutes YouTube videos and then you spend 4 minutes of those 10 just checking ads or just waiting to skip those 45 unskippable second ads, that's bandwidth. You pay for those ads because you're paying for your internet connection. It's a privilege to have unlimited data. We know internet service providers that don't really offer unlimited data. It's kind of a scam. So everything that you download from the internet, it adds up to your cost, to your bill at the end of the day, if you consume more data than your allowance or you're allowed to. Same things for a website. You visit a website that's mostly text and you just a few kilobytes, but then all of a sudden like 25 pop-ups of ads just popping up and destroy your bandwidth, and they just make the experience miserable. So it's not just a perception of browsing the internet today sucks. It's also an affected cost to your wallet directly. So I would say that it's our duty to stop these ads, make it clear through our actions that advertisement-based browsing, advertisement-based internet, advertisement-based knowledge, it's not sustainable anymore and should be changed. Of course, there are a lot of exceptions. There are a lot of places that are doing it right. For example, if I listen to a tech podcast about Linux, and then in that tech podcast, because it's completely free, I just download the podcast torrent and I listen to it. If in that like 45 minutes of episode, there's 1 minute of ad, maybe about a new Linux server or a new web development product or a new DevOps installation, whatever, something that is related to the content that I'm listening to, I don't consider it that bad because it's an ad, but first it's short. It doesn't take more than 0.1% of the entire length. So the bandwidth cost is very negligible at that point, but also the content is relevant to me. It's something that I'm interested in and I'm okay listening to it, but then I can skip it if I want. But that doesn't bother me. The things that bother me are the aggressive shoving on completely unrelated bullshit ads that I don't care at all, but also the aggressive data collection that in order to make ads more efficient and optimized, these companies, the conglomerate, the massive advertising companies, they want to know everything about you. And that's a whole other problem that came with advertisement on the internet. So now I'm going to turn into the old man that yell at clouds. But in the past, advertisement was always the sustainable way to do free programs. Like we did it with the radio, we did it with the TVs. And in the past, there was your radio show and you had your ads that supported your radio show, and that's it. And the ad was relevant to your radio show. If your radio show was about science fiction, you had an ad about science fiction. If it was about rock music, you had an ad about concerts and stuff like that. It was widespread. It wasn't about you as a single individual. It was about the content that you were consuming. So it was relevant to that content. With television, the same. There was a program and then the ads started rolling about, I don't know, cereals and other things. It was a little bit more widespread because the adoption of television became more widespread. Then with specialization and specificity of TV shows and programs, we started seeing regional relevant ads. It wasn't anymore the same nation, even watching the same channel, look and was consuming the same ad. You could have different ads per region. And the excuse was that specific people in a specific region don't care about an ad about a restaurant that is not present there. At the core, that concept makes sense. The problem is that that logic opened up the necessity of learning and knowing about who's watching this ad or who's watching this content. And that's when data collection started, which at the beginning was just, okay, you're watching this video from this specific country or this specific city or this specific region, and I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to give you this information that are relevant to your specific location. And then advertisers started wanting to learn about demographic and started wanting about jobs, started wanting about your family, like do you have kids, you don't have kids. And the data collection madness started spreading with the excuse, because it's just an excuse now, because it doesn't really work, with the excuse of improving the algorithm to offer you more relevant ads. But I don't know if you noticed it, but I'm not seeing relevant ads at all. I'm just seeing the worst fucking thing ever. And the adoption of data collection and algorithmic return content just destroyed the internet and made it worse to use every single day. Let me give you a couple of examples. The other month, my washing machine broke. I needed to buy a washing machine. What do you do when you need to buy a new appliance? You start going online. You search for reviews, you search for the latest models, you check some videos, maybe, like I don't know if you go on YouTube to watch like washing machine video tutorials, but I did because I needed to be informed, because some like brick and mortar, some stores, they don't have all the models. So before going into a store and just choosing, they only have 2 models, I'm gonna take the worst one because I didn't do any research. I prefer to do some research myself. I did it for a couple of days. I chose a new washing machine. I bought it. I got it installed all in a week. Perfect. The week after, all my ads for the following 3 weeks were just about washing machine. What the fuck? I don't need another washing machine. I just bought one. But the data collection of me going around the internet, browsing for washing machines, watching a couple of videos, watching a couple of reviews, and then the connection that my credit card company did with the rest, because of course banks and other credit card companies, they share your data. They saw that I purchased a washing machine. Now the algorithm thought that my top interest in life are washing machines. And that's the only thing that I got for the next 3 weeks. Just constant advertisement about washing machine, which is fucking stupid. It's just the worst thing ever. It just makes me hate the internet. So at that point, the data collection is detrimental to your browsing experience, because data collection tries, especially the algorithm for ads, they try to understand through your behavior, through what you're consuming and what you're seeing, what are the things that interest you the most? What are the things that engages you the most? And what are the things that keeps you hooked and you keep wanting to watch? That's all it's based, like the algorithmic social media feed, the algorithmic based ads, the algorithmic return of dynamic ads, and all these stuff. The problem is that humans are not unilateral. Humans are not 2D. We don't just like one thing. We need diversity in our life to survive. We need to change our mind every single day. We need to be exposed to different things, different opinions, different point of views, different ads, different messages, different TV shows, different videos. We cannot watch and consume always the same thing. But that does not work in advertisement. In advertisement, you need to just watch the same thing until you buy it, and you buy it so much that you die of debt because you bought all the things that we shove in your ass. And if you keep buying it, we keep returning the same things, and you're stuck in that cycle. This is a little bit of an exaggeration, but let me know if you agree with me. Like, let me know in the comments below if you have the same experience of a deteriorated experience of the internet, something that it's harder to find new, different content, and the same things are returned to you. This is how we have Nazis now. This is how we have like people that think that vaccines don't work. This is how we have people that think that the earth is flat or we never went to the moon. This is how we have lunatics. It's not primarily their fault. It's that the fact that people that they have doubts about something, like for example, just silly example, if I think that the color blue doesn't exist, something, I'm sure this is gonna be someone that believes that the color blue doesn't exist. Let's give it an example. The color blue doesn't exist. I start thinking like maybe the color blue doesn't exist because maybe I'm colorblind. I don't see blue. People are telling me that blue is a specific shade. I don't see it. So to me, it doesn't make sense. I go on the internet and start doing research like blue doesn't exist, or what is the color blue? Can you give me an example of color blue? I don't see it. And I do this research for 1 or 2 days. Then all the algorithmic feeds, all the ads, all the internet, all the things of the websites, they start returning confirmation biases on the things that I just searched, because the algorithm sees that I'm more engaged and I stay more on a website if I'm researching the things that I'm currently curious about. So suddenly, after a week, I start getting bombarded by articles, publication, ads, or anything that confirm that the color blue doesn't exist. And then the internet does this beautiful thing where it redirects me to a place where other people believe that the color blue doesn't exist. So suddenly, I'm not the only one. I'm exposed to these like 1,000 people that believe that the color blue doesn't exist. And it doesn't matter if there are 8 billion people in the world that know and see the color blue. If 1,000 people believe strongly that the color blue doesn't exist, the internet, this fucking algorithm, will do everything in its power to force me and shove me that information and be stuck in that group and just going into a cyclical information of wrong, misinformed, fake, manipulated ads and media and articles and anything, just because it confirms that I'm more engaged in that bubble than in anything else. Now, this is a little bit of a tangent, and it shows how the internet basically radicalizes you, especially social media. But everything comes from the data collection that are needed to optimize ads. And then it got out of hand, maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, but suddenly all these like mega corporation on the internet, they started like, oh, we have all this data, we can actually manipulate people. And it's all because of money. It's all because you can buy more, you can spend more money, and you can just stay on their platform forever and never leave. So with all that said, let's go into the core of this video, which is how do we protect ourselves from algorithmic bias? Specifically, let's focus on advertisement. First, the easy thing, use Firefox. If you don't use Firefox, what are you doing? I know Firefox maybe has some flaws, is not the best and more performant, it doesn't have profile management like Google Chrome, or it's whatever, you hate Mozilla for whatever reason that you might be right, might be wrong. But Firefox is the browser that actually actively protects your privacy. It blocks by default unwanted advertising, blocks by default the leak of data. By default, just installing Firefox, every time you visit Facebook, puts it in a self-contained container that protects the rest of your browsing. So Facebook cannot leak outside your tab and check your browsing activities, see what you're doing, and follow you around the internet. Just that by default, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's just, there should be the only reason to use Firefox, because it puts Facebook in a corner.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
So just that by default, it's incredible. The other thing that you need to do is install the AdBlocker, whatever AdBlocker. There's UOrigin blocker, AdBlocker, whatever. There are a million other things that you can check. Those are actively banned by Google Chrome. By adding an AdBlocker, the majority of the ads will be completely blocked. The tracking pixel, the tracking data, all these things will be shut down when you visit a website. Your browsing experience will actually be faster, because you won't be spending time bandwidth in loading things that you don't care. But also on YouTube, because we all know that we all use YouTube. This video is on YouTube. I really hope that you didn't have to wait for 2 minutes from unskippable ads to watch this video. It would be absolutely atrocious. But if you did, do these things that I'm saying so you can watch my video without ads. I don't need the money. I actually disabled monetization on my videos, but ads are still running because fuck you, Google, I guess. Whatever. I'm gonna be banned from this website. But anyway, if you put uBlock Origin and you use Firefox, by default, the videos will not auto-start on ads. Firefox automatically blocks ads from auto-playing. Then uBlock Origin actually remove the ads, remove the mid-roll from the video, that those are dynamically added. So you can watch a 3 hours video without any ads interruption, which is fantastic. It's the best way to watch Eurovision. So just do it, just do it. And please, please, for the love of God, don't comment on my video. I don't use Firefox, I use IceFox or whatever the fuck, LibreWolf or whatever fork. First of all, if you use a Firefox fork, you're actively damaging the internet. Because using a Firefox fork, you're basically removing active users from Firefox. So Firefox user share is decreasing, and the internet user share, what is that? Like now Firefox is below 3% or something like that. So companies will see those stats and say like 70 whatever percent of users use Google Chrome, the other 20 or something use Microsoft Edge, which is just Google Chrome with a different skin, by the way. So Google literally decides how the internet works. And the rest is just 1-3-5% of random data, like Opera, Vivaldi, Brave, or whatever other fucking Safari. The companies will only invest money on websites and tools and applications that only work on those two browsers, on Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge, without knowing that Google Chrome is the same thing. So they will only work and will make the internet worse on Firefox. So if something doesn't work on Firefox, you switching on a fork of Firefox, you're actively killing the internet. Also, Firefox and all the building browsers is one of the most complex things to do out there. Is an engineering feat that is mind-blowing for how fast the internet moves, how complicated it is to support all the things on the internet. So if you use a fork of Firefox, that fork of Firefox, the only thing that they do, I'm gonna be controversial here, I'm gonna upset a lot of people, but I need to say, people that fork a browser and that change a bunch of settings, they change the UI and put a new logo and ship it, you're destroying the internet as well. Because you, as a maintainer of a fork, you don't have the resources, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the capacity to maintain an entire browser on your own. So if Firefox die, your fork will die in a second, will be the first one to die. That's a reality, that's a fact. There's no way in hell that a fork with 10,000 users will survive if the main mother project, in this case Firefox, dies and disappears. If the millions of dollars of investment from Mozilla, they don't sustain the browser anymore. All the forks that you love and they say they are superior, they just disappear. So don't comment, don't comment. I mean, you're gonna comment, it's fine. It's fine, it's all right. It's the way it is. People don't like something like, I'm gonna use the same thing but worse. That's the thing. Instead of actively participating and changing things, that's the other thing. I'm gonna stop this because I'm gonna move to the next topic, which is the Raspberry Pi. But if you don't like what Firefox is doing, instead of leaving and doing another thing, so I don't care about Firefox anymore, I'm just gonna do my thing, I'm gonna use a fork, so fuck Mozilla. Mozilla doesn't know that you left because there's something that you don't like. You exclude yourself from the equation. You exclude yourself from the pool of data that Mozilla uses to gather user satisfaction. Mozilla is seeing a decline in users base of Firefox. So they're trying to do something. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. They're doing the right thing, they're doing the wrong thing. If you upset user, you're not there to tell them, hey, this is wrong, I don't want this. I'll continuing using the browser and maybe doing extensions to change things, submitting patches, participating in the forum, writing to the leadership and telling them, I don't want this. If you just leave and use a fork, what do you expect? Mozilla doesn't have that feedback that they need to do what's right. They just see the users leaving and they're gonna try something. Of course, Mozilla has a lot of faults in that because they stop engaging with the community and there are a bunch of things. I'm not defending, we're all at fault here. But what I'm saying, if a major project, no matter what it is doing something wrong that you don't like as a user, leaving for a less supported fork is not the right way to do it. You just remove users, you just remove importance to the core project that fork depends on. So you're just actively killing that project. And if that project dies, your fork will die right away. So stop doing that. Forks are great. I have nothing against forks. Forks are great. Forks are the core of the open source, of like the life of the internet for the open source community. They're fantastic because it allows people to experiment, to do something. But a fork that doesn't do anything other than change a bunch of preferences or having like a slightly different UI doesn't bring any benefit to the core project. Forks were intended to, so you fork it, you modified it, you test it, it works, users love it. Support it upstream, just send it back upstream and say, hey, look at this. I have 100,000 users that are like this. You should integrate it into your core product. No, just let's kill the internet. Anyway, let's move to the next topic, which is Raspberry Pi.